So welcome to the demonstration of Etuity, a system for land trust stewardship managers to help not only manage stewardship for various properties, but also to help people who are out in the field enter information just once electronically and get that up into the system. So what we'll show you is both the desktop interface we see here. So this is designed to be on a screen on a computer and typically would be used by staff back at the office. But also we have the field interface, which would be used on a iPad, iPhone, PC or Mac, any sort of device out in the field, where people are actually using it to navigate to different objectives and enter in information, take pictures, and all the good stuff we can now do to associate pretty rich records with a stewardship visit and easily create a one-touch stewardship report. That's actually pretty impressive. So to start, we will jump into the back office section with a real brief overview of the sorts of information we can keep about individual properties. So here you see we have a list of properties, and we can click on one and see the property details, and we may have multiple contacts. This just happens to have one, but more can be added, and we can keep track of what roles those individuals have for that property. It might be a caretaker, it might be an owner, a child of the owner. These are useful to keep track of. It's also useful to keep track of which person went along on a visit, which person was notified that the steward was coming, things of that sort. In fact, we can in this section indicate whether pre-notification is needed and what days are appropriate, which times would be inappropriate, things like that. There are a whole set of fields here that are configurable by the land trust. Different land trusts really do keep track of different information, so we can customize that. So for instance, is this a riparian property? Is there public access allowed? Lots of basic information, and we don't think any two land trusts are going to be quite alike with this. Opportunities for notes, directions, and importantly, what you see down at the bottom, these are what we call objectives. These are the places on the property, either through the baseline or through subsequent stewardship visits, people have called out that might be points that are worth revisiting in the future. That could range from a boundary pin to a previously noted encroachment. Things typically have a latitude and longitude associated with them that this system will help, in the field version, will help them navigate to it so that they can add a visit and note what has been happening longitudinally over time. So let's jump over to the field interface. So if you look at this screen here, you will see this is typically what will come up when you first open the system. We can choose which client we want to go to. And in fact, since the system is usually configured as a cloud system and certain properties are assigned to an individual steward, when that steward opens up the system, it will automatically check to make sure the right data is loaded onto their device. And that's important because they're likely going to be going out into the field to places where there is poor internet access. So that gets downloaded onto the device, and they will see the property here, and this is sort of a version of this screen. This is the location details screen, and we can look at information about the owner, information with directions, information about the site, documents such as a baseline, an easement, a management plan, a survey. But really what people are going to wind up doing when they get to that particular location is they're first going to go to the day report. And that's going to indicate certain information about that day's visit. For instance, I can click on the little clock icon that indicates when I started the visit. If there are particular things I saw during this visit, I might check some of them off. There was litter. If so, this icon pops up so I can type in a note about the litter. And after I begin to put in information about that visit, I will then probably jump to the objectives. This is a list of the objectives at this particular site. There are boundary pins, wildlife notes, a previous erosion incident. It's going to be different for different properties. Or I can actually create a new visit and a new objective if I see something additional. But importantly, back on the back-end interface that the stewardship director is likely using, they have the opportunity to click on these various checkboxes, and this indicates that they would like the steward to go visit a particular location. That might be because no steward has been there for a number of years and they want to check it out. So you can see as I click on this one, it suddenly shows a checkbox here in the field interface. That means when I go out to the field to start stewarding, it shows me which ones the stewardship director would really like me to visit. So if I want to go to that one, I would just click on the arrow, and it's going to bring me to objective number 5 at this property. And I can add a new visit. So now I am here on March 20th, for example, and I can type in some notes about having visited, or I can just click in no concern. I've been here and everything's fine. You can see how quick that can be. If I were to create a new observation, a new point, I would just go ahead and press this plus or minus button. And now I just created objective number 9. And let's say I found a boundary pin that we haven't found previously. And I might want to locate that to put it on the map. Well, I can go ahead and touch this. It brings up a map. I can just touch where it is. And now you'll see that it's actually calculated the latitude and longitude, and quite accurately, down to about 2 or 3 feet. It's pretty superior to GPS, which typically is about 15 feet off, because we're taking a Google map that is already geolocated and touching a very particular pixel. It can be quite precise. So now we have a new objective, a visit, some notes on it. We might add in a description and say that this is that boundary pin in a particular location, the one that was missing, the one between boundary pin 11 and 13, whatever it is we would like to do. And we can also add in a picture. Now I'm showing this to you on a computer, so I don't have a camera hooked up to it. But if I were on an iPhone, I would just click on this box here and the camera would pop up, I'd take a picture, and importantly, it would go right into that record. So I no longer need to download the pictures and manually associate them with the appropriate record. It's all in the database. As it is on the computer, I can just go ahead and choose a picture from my desktop, and I can just pick some arbitrary picture. If I happen to have one on my desktop, here we go. And it will insert that picture right there. And that is the gist of the system. The next stage after we've done our various visits is we would probably go back to the day report, say, clicking the clock button to indicate that we're finished, and it took us 3 minutes and 30 seconds for this entire day. And I would click on the upload button if I had internet access, because that would then take all that information and move it into the master database. And from there, say I were the stewardship director, I can go over here and jump into a report. So I will jump over to the stewardship report, and it would look something like this. It would have basic information about that visit that day, my signature, the stewards using the field interface, their signature, they would actually sign it with their finger, and then all of the visits with the pictures we just took, and the notes and the GPS locations and all that good stuff, which can then be stored digitally on the cloud or printed out to be put into the compliant record system. This can also be exported in PDF and emailed to people, and a version can also be exported and emailed to a landowner. That might be pretty nice for landowner relations, to say have a version of this that included all the wildlife observations and other things that may show a common interest between the people doing stewardship and the landowner, engendering more of a mutually perceived intimacy of each other with the property, which can only be a good thing. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, go ahead and click below and feel free to email or call, and we're happy to talk about this stuff.